Terminal F is the next terminal that we built at DFW Airport. With all 16 gates being used by American Airlines and American Airlines only, it will be interesting to see how they will utilize the new terminal when it opens. What's going on, everyone? My name's Cool Titanium 68. Welcome back to our latest aviation video, and today we're going to be going over Terminal F at DFW Airport. Let's roll the intro. So for those of you that don't know what Terminal F is, I highly recommend you watch last week's video going over DFW's capital investment program, where I briefly went over Terminal F, as well as some of the other projects that are included that are honestly just a fraction of the 170 projects included in that program. This one's more of a speculation video rather than just an actual factual video like it was last week. Now to start with, let's kind of go over what Terminal F is going to look like. So as y'all can probably see, this is what the terminals look like. So you've got A, B, C, D, and E. All of these are semicircular terminals. Now the difference here is that it's going to be a huge pier. So think like a huge rectangle basically right around here. It's going to be 16 gates. It's going to bring in hopefully more passengers into DFW Airport. Why is this such a big deal that it's not a semicircular terminal? I mean, for most of y'all, you'd think, well, everything else is a semicircular terminal to a degree. I mean, technically, Terminal D is a big square, but it's still utilized as a semicircle. And to be honest with you, that's a great question. Yeah, you may think, okay, well, it would look like the part, look like every other terminal. I mean, in the original plans, there were supposed to be 13 semicircular terminals. Now, mind you, if the north to south runways were supposed to be like 20,000 feet long, but I digress, you don't really need runways that long. However, there is a real reason why a pier-shaped terminal is much better for passengers. Now, for those of you like me that regularly fly out of DFW Airport, just know how big these semicircular terminals are. Now, the main reason why these were built is that the time to go from the parking lot to baggage to security to the gate is much shorter. I mean, most of them, I think most except for Terminal D have 3 security checkpoints, and the gates are literally right in front of you when you get there. It's really easy, nothing bad to it. Now the downside is for connecting passengers. With this being American's largest hub and it being the second largest airline hub in the world, it does take a good 25 to 30 minute walk just to get to the other side of the terminal. You could take Skylink, but it doesn't get you all the way to the other side. There's only 2 stops per terminal, so you can either get to one side and to the other side, but then you have to go back down and then walk to your next gate. And most of the time that could take a good 25 to 30 minute brisk walk just to get to the other side of the terminal. And sometimes that may not even be enough time to get to their next flight. Now, with these 16 gates, this is going to be a significant increase for the airport. In total, there are going to be 25 gates added. On top of those, and that include those 16 gates. The other 5 are going to be on Terminal A, the other 4 are going to be on Terminal C. Right now, we have 174 gates split into 5 terminals, and with the addition of these 25 gates will indicate a 14% increase in gates, allowing for growth and expansion. Now, the big question is, how would American Airlines utilize Terminal F once it's built and opened up? Just by doing some random thinking, because I somehow have that much free time, I thought of 2 ways that American could use Terminal F. Let's dive into the first one. And this one is a little bit interesting. So I thought of it as being used as another international terminal, but strictly for American Airlines. So the thing is that American Airlines doesn't always use their wide bodies, like their 787s and their 777s, to every international flight. I mean, look, you don't need a 787 to go to Canada. And there's some flights that do require a 787 when you're going down into Mexico and Central America, but most of those things don't need that. Most of the time they're using a 737 or an A320 family plane, which is the most abundant plane that American Airlines has. Why would I think that American could use this as an international flight? Well, with the deliveries of the largest airplane in the A320 family, the A321XLR, what they could do is they could move a lot of their narrow bodies that are being used for international flights and have them fly out of Terminal F. Now, in doing so, this is all the new A321 XLRs are also going to be helping to reorganize some of these flights. So if there's like a 7878 that's just a little bit too big for it to for like a transatlantic or transpacific flight, they'll use an A321 XLR, which will help to utilize those wide bodies onto much larger and more profitable routes. Like maybe to London Heathrow. Maybe they might add another Boeing 777 to Heathrow. Or they might add another 787 out to Japan. I don't know. Now, in doing so, this would give their wide bodies like the 787s and 777s that are at Terminal D more time in between flights, as well as allow for more international carriers to fly to DFW Airport. And let's say, like, if London Heathrow were to somehow get a second daily flight with British Airways. I mean, look, yeah, you use the A380, but then you throw a 777 in there, and now you've got plenty of gate space at Terminal D to do that. Now, with a total of 5 new international routes starting in 24 and a new route coming in 2025, we could see other airlines looking into either expanding their current flight schedule to DFW Airport or even adding a new route to DFW Airport. Let's say if American decides to fly international routes out of Terminal F. Now, how likely do I think this is going to happen? I would say it's more or less likely to happen for me. Even though it does sound like a really cool idea for American Airlines, it's going to make Terminal D feel a little bit more empty because one of Americans' most lucrative routes, at least flying from DFW to and from DFW Airport, is to Cancun. And they don't need a 787 most of the time. They're going to use like a Boeing 737 or an A321, and they don't have the A350 like what other airliners have. So it's something where it's like they could move maybe some of those flights out of there. I don't know. It's something interesting to see. But even though American still has 30 787-9s and 50 A321 XLR aircraft outstanding, at least orders wise, those are pretty much going to be used for international routes. It could help American to reallocate aircraft to different routes and add new international routes to increase the flight frequency to other destinations from DFW Airport. So that would be something interesting to see, because I know right now they have 20 777-300s, and I know they're in the workings of refurbishing those airplanes. So being able to have those 787s and A321 XLRs would be great. But this is just a matter of using Terminal F as an international terminal is like, they could, but I think this next one would probably be the best thing to do. Now, I think this is a little bit extreme on this, but hear me out. What if American Airlines moved out of Terminal E? Now, for those of y'all that have watched either the first or now the 9th episode of American Airport expansions, you know that I've said that, like, I've talked about, DFW Airport multiple times, and I've talked about in our most recent one last week where in 2019 they opened up the Terminal E satellite gates for American Airlines and how it added another 100 daily flights. Now, my thinking is, why not move them out of here? And I mean, yes, this is 15 gates, but you could reallocate them into A and C and maybe some into F. But another thought that I had that honestly I just thought of now that's not on this, that's honestly not on the script here that I have in front of me, is what if they moved some of the domestic flights out of Terminal D to Terminal F? I mean, yes, still, you keep Terminal F as an international terminal, but you completely eliminate all of the domestic flights that you've put into Terminal D. But in basic terms, you just use Terminal D as an international flight. No more domestics. That all goes to Terminal F. But the other reason why is I think they could move them out. Now, why do I think originally that American should move out of Terminal E? And the reason is Southwest Airlines. So yes, American does need the gates to expand, but I mean, if you really think about it, 9 gates are going to be coming from the extensions of 8 are going to be coming from Terminals A and C piers. So if 2/3 of the gates could be replaced by moving those flights back to Terminals A and C once they finish building those new piers, they could utilize Terminal F just also as more of an expansion in general. Now, I did explain how Terminal F could be used for more international flights, especially since 7 of the top 10 international destinations to and from DFW are either to or from Mexico and Canada. But half of the top 10 destinations from DFW Airport are towards the west. At DFW, the top domestic flights are to LA, Las Vegas, Atlanta, then Denver, then Chicago O'Hare, then Orlando International, then Phoenix Sky Harbor, LaGuardia, Miami International, and then Seattle Tacoma. Now, mind you, number 1, number 2, number 4, number 7, and number 10 in terms of the busiest domestic routes are all on the west, are like to the west. Now, Denver is also like a centrally located thing, and so is Phoenix to some extent, but Seattle, LA, and Las Vegas, those are more on the west coast. Now, when it comes to some of the more busy international routes, out of the top 7, only number 2 is not to Mexico. So number 1 is to Cancun, number 2 is to London Heathrow, 3 is to Mexico City, number 4 is to Cabo, 5 is Guadalajara, 6 is Monterrey, 7 is Puerto Vallarta, and then number 8 is to Toronto, number 9 is to Paris Charles de Gaulle, 10 is to Seoul Incheon. So it's very interesting that 1 through 8, only number 2 is in North America. Because 11 through 20, there's still a few Canadian and Mexico routes. Like number 13 is to Vancouver. Number 4 is to León de Bajío. Number 7, that's number 16. Number 17 is to Querétaro. And number 20 is to Calgary in Canada. I think if not more than half of the 20 busiest international routes out of DFW Airport come from, or at least either come from or fly into North America. Now, we do have I think the most profitable South American route is to Sao Paulo, because American is the only one that flies down there, at least flying from DFW, but still, that would be another interesting thing. Now, at least for American, when it comes to just using Terminal F as just a domestic expansion, there is some reasoning behind it. So even though American is expecting 30 Boeing 787s and I think it's 50 A321 XLRs, there are also 115 Boeing 737 MAX 10s, 38 737 MAX 8s, and 85 Airbus A321 Neo orders that are still outstanding. Now, those MAX 10s are probably not going to be delivered until they get certified, but the MAX 8s, I know right now, with currently with the machinist strike, production's been halted, and the A321s are going to take a long time to get here. Now, the downside is with these planes is that the only expected aircraft are these MAX 8s. And the reason for that is because the A321 Neos were actually ordered in March of 2024. So this was about 7 months ago when they ordered these. Meaning that it's still going to take several years before American Airlines will be next in line to get their first deliveries of their A321 Neos. And on top of that, as I said before, the 737 MAX 10s is still in the process of certification. And to be honest with you, I don't think any of us know when that plane is going to be fully certified. But however, if you guys really think about it, once the MAX 10 is certified, this could be used on some of their much busier domestic routes, like DFW to LAX or DFW to Vegas. Because, you don't need to fly so far. I mean, there's a reason why they still use the 737-800s when going to Cancun. There's still a higher capacity. I think that too could also, in general, I think the MAX 10s could also be used in the DFW Cancun route as well to help facilitate the need for that. Because I think the 787 is a little bit too big. I could tell that from last year because I went to Cancun last Thanksgiving, and they used a 787 going down, which was a little bit big. So that's something to really think about. As I said before, Southwest, I had briefly said that Southwest was a reason that American could move out of Terminal E. Now, why do I think that? It's all because of the Wright Amendment. Now, back in 2006, to completely appeal the Wright Amendment, one of the provisions was that if Southwest Airlines wanted to expand to another North Texas airport before 2025, they would lose a gate at Love Field. They legally have to do that. They can't expand Love Field because they legally have to. Like when they made this compromise to lower the right amendment, Love Field had to go down from 32 gates to 20. So with Southwest moving into DFW Airport from what I've heard, they're going to be doing 24 daily flights out of DFW Airport. They're most likely going to be put into Terminal E. And that's because Terminal E is where everyone else flies out of. So things like United, Delta, Spirit, Frontier, I think Air Canada as well. I may be wrong. I think some Canadian airlines like Air Canada, and I forgot what the other thing is, but they usually fly out of Terminal E. Just because I know with Canada, you don't really need a passport, so it would be something interesting to see. With Southwest moving in, it's going to be a very interesting year for 2025. Because, 2024, we're probably going to see, I would guess, close to about 83, maybe 84 million, maybe even 85 million passengers. Because in 2023, we had just under 82 million passengers. And since we've already had a record-breaking summer schedule for American Airlines at a minimum, we're definitely going to set another record this year. So I definitely would like to see, honestly, kind of be interested to see how DFW could really use that. Now, honestly, these are probably the two most reasonable ideas for DFW Airport when it comes to how Terminal F could be used, as American Airlines has been looking to build up their international routes out of DFW airports. Honestly, this could just be a lot of just reutilization as aircraft, as newer aircraft are being delivered. And honestly, once the rest of the MAX 8s come out, they can retire a lot of the older next-gen aircraft like the 737-800s. And I don't remember if they use any older aircraft. Yeah, so they just have 303 737-800s. They could probably start to retire some of those older ones once the MAX 8 and the MAX 10 start coming, or ordered out. So it would be something interesting to see as to whether or not DFW Airport what could American Airlines use? Whether it's going to be all narrow body gates, kind of like what most of the other terminals are, maybe a mix of wide body and narrow body gates. I don't know. On top of this, as American Airlines does start to their newer planes delivered, we will get to see how they're going to utilize those planes for their expansion, and as to what they'll do with Terminal F. Now, of course, I think construction is going to start within the next month or so. And it's probably going to take a good 3 or 4 years before we'll actually see substantial progress, and then we'll finally get to see how American Airlines will use that terminal. Of course, all we got to do is we got to take time, and we got to be patient with this. And with that, we're going to end the video right here, guys. So thank you guys so much for watching today's video on how Terminal F could be utilized. I know you guys are probably like, well, what about this new American Airports expansion series? And the answer is it's coming. I just have to do some more research. I want to put this out here so that I could do some more research for some of the other airlines. So if you guys liked what you watched, please leave a like and subscribe down below. If you don't want to miss any future uploads, whether it be aviation videos, mountain bike videos, or these automotive videos, hit that bell icon so you'll be the first ones being notified right when it drops. And also, leave a comment down below as to what airport I should take a look at. Because I'm going to be taking a look at all the past 9 American Airport expansion videos and re-looking at some of those terminals. I know Denver's going to be up. I know Denver just announced their stuff. LAX is in the works. JFK, I'm actually just finished doing. It's going to be coming out next week. I think Seattle Tacoma is probably going to be in the looks. I know Charlotte's is done, so we'll go over what they've done. And I believe, or I don't know if I said anything about Orlando or not. And then we'll take a look at Hartsfield-Jackson, the busiest airport in the world, as well as O'Hare, and see if they've done anything. But again, with that, the best thing to do is to like and subscribe down below. And then leave that comment. I'm going to put a whole list of airports that I'm going to put together. And eventually, once we've gone through those airports, I'm going to start putting up polls every week saying, hey, which one should I do next? And then the highest will be done. So again, hope you guys have a great day. I hope you have a great weekend. Peace.